My name is Olaf Landsgaard. I'm speaking in the public comment section on an item that I don't consider to be on the agenda, but I think you just put it on the agenda, so pardon me if I'm speaking out of turn. 2014-14, President Webb came Thursday night, spoke and said we have 18 months water supply in the water bank alone if we didn't have any other source at all. I don't see there being an emergency that allows you to do this, and ask you to refrain from rushing into something that basically gives you a club to use on the people of Rosamond. This is not appropriate at this time, I would think, for a community that, again, President Wood explained, has already met its 20% reduction 7 years early in its water usage. This is saying that this is to encourage the community to save water, or the community's been saving water. I guess the question is, why would you want to do this unless you want to use this to have power to club somebody with this, and you've got power to club people with this? And I don't think that's appropriate. I think to rush it onto the agenda that wasn't on the agenda to begin with, number one. And I appreciate that I got the chance to read it before it came tonight as I walked through the door. And it's not something that requires an emergency procedure. The only thing is the state declared a drought. And as you know, we don't rely on rainwater per se. Technically, everything that we do for the water cannot rely on AVEC to begin with. We have to rely on what they pump for groundwater. And I haven't heard that we're in a problem with groundwater shortage at this point in time. As such, to say, okay, we got the mandate from the State Water Board to go ahead and use the club if we want to, doesn't mean we have to. And I'm asking you to use your discretion and say, well, we almost put this over, let's give this another look, given the fact that the community already has cut back 20% from water usage 7 years earlier than it was required to. Then require the community to do more, I think, is a disservice the community does not recognize what the community has done in water savings in the last few years.
The water bank, and that does help secure our future needs in the water bank. But in a dry year, finding 1,500 acre-feet of water, people probably speaking that, he's out beating bushes trying to find where he can get water.
I said that I can read in the newspapers, LA Times and LA Register, just about every day they've had some kind of article about the water concerns. Sunday's the Daily News, they had a full-page article about all the swimming pools in the San Fernando Valley. And I don't know if I haven't read the article yet, but it was front page about the swimming pools. And that's one of the rites of passage I think all Californians believe they have, to have a swimming pool if they can afford it. And everything that we thought was normal years ago is starting to change. So what I said is that if we've done a very good job in conservation, let's continue to do it. And we have people who could do a little bit more. Let's encourage them. The best influence is someone doing the right thing to encourage someone else. And thanks everyone for everything you do.
My comment, because I do sell, I have a local rock yard, I do encourage people to do non-grass landscaping or reduce their grass landscaping. I've been asked a couple of questions, and perhaps the general manager could address those when he gets to his report. I've had complaints even from landscapers about legacy homes putting in grass, and people see the extra water being used, and they're wondering what we can do to, and I know we've spoken in years past to planning, that we would like to see a lot less grass put into any new homes, and for some reason that's gotten lost. So I'm being asked to see what we can do to reduce the new grass being put in. Also, Palmdale and Lancaster are very, very aggressive on the landscaping and removal of grass, but they also have gotten a grant from the state. And I was also asked if we could peruse or pursue that with the state of California, the state funds it's supposed to be. That would enable us to buy back grass. And for some of my customers, the amount of bought back grass is paid for their dry landscape. So for them, it's a pretty good deal, and it saves water, it saves yard maintenance. They're going to get their value back in the rockscapes in 2 to 3 years. And so those are questions that the public has asked me about, and to see if maybe we can't use our influence here and see what we can do. See if we can pursue state monies for buying back grass so people can put in their escapes and that kind of thing. So that's my director's comments. It is exciting actually to me to see landscapers and the public very concerned about the water usage on these new homes. And so the message of conserving water is really coming through. And we got a little bit of tummy shower, just enough to, dirty my car. But it would be really nice to see a lot of rain this winter.
When we got the, we've been hearing a lot about the water in the news, and yes, Rosamond has done a good job in conserving water over the years, but we always got to keep in mind, to just always look for other ways to conserve where we can. Take shorter showers. Don't let the water run while you're shaving and things like that. Turn your sprinklers on a couple of days a week instead of every day. Don't wash your car. Hose down a driveway or a walkway. Use a blower, use a broom. Just little things like that. If you water your lawn, do it between the hours of midnight and 6 in the morning. So it's just little things like that. That if people aren't already doing it, try to do that. They just help in the long run as far as conservation goes. And but again, I just want to tell the community that you guys are doing great, and keep up the good work in conservation.
We purchased and we also discussed looking at other avenues as far as to get additional water. The staff and the gym, they've been real aggressive about going out and looking at some other possible sources and partnerships to see what we can see. I think the biggest thing that we found out in the finance committee is that Steve, maybe you have to give me the number. The number's starting to creep up on this purchase price before we look abroad, right? And I think that the community should be aware of one thing, that those that have it, it's become probably the highest price commodity we're ever going to see for a long time. And those that have it, they're willing to sell it at a particular price. And the bad part about us, we're kind of on a fixed income. We just can't go out and buy massive quantities of water. But that 1,500 gallons is going to go a long way for us, keeping us tidy. And we're still looking for additional needs. But the water is not here, but it's out there if you want to pay the price to get it here. And so that's what we talked about. And staff and the gym is still working on it. Great. Wow.
Director Webb, water prices as of this morning in the Central Valley are creeping to the $3,000 an acre foot levels. Very extenuating circumstances exist in the Central Valley. You have farmers with orchards that if they don't get water, they're going to lose their entire field. So they're willing to pay the higher price for water at this juncture, and it's a thing to behold. I had a speaking engagement in Lancaster this morning, and then in Bakersfield. I was in a meeting there and ran into several water guys that participated in the southern San Joaquin Valley bid, where it hit $1,132 an acre foot. And they were saying we need to sit down and talk, because our water bank could be a valuable asset to us. And so they were going to give me some additional briefing on that. But one of the important things about water right now was to urge our partners that because everybody's got their back up against the wall, isn't time to falsely drive up the price of water. And not when a person's down, you start kicking them and start charging an exorbitant amount of money for that. And that $3,000 an acre foot is out of line.
But is there any way we can prevent that? I mean, you have to kind of dictate the price, right?
No, that's going
So
to be up to the market and where you obtain that water. There's so many different ways of obtaining water and moving it through paper exchanges if you get cooperation with everybody to do that. So we've been working real hard to explore the additional areas. The question about the quantity of water, the 1,500 acre feet adds to what we had in the bank currently, and we have approximately an 18-month supply of water in the bank in the event that we don't receive any water at all. But I'll address the comments that were made when we get to the resolution, and I give my report in that part on how that works together with what we'll be addressing. But I'd like to address also that we're back on track on the strategic plan. We have a completion date set aside for October 28th or 22nd, I believe it is, to adopt October 22nd meeting. So expect Brett Ives to be calling and speaking to each one of you, arranging meetings, because the visions that for the district are those visions of those elected by the people and not staff driven. So he'll be talking with you. The strategic plan, although we have mission statements already drawn, they may roll into it very well. But then again, after getting all the information, he and I will sit down to synthesize the information he gets from you, and we'll work further on the various elements that we'll address. Some of those are the mission statement, the vision statement, strategic element, and the strategic goals that go along with those each element. The elements examples are water, sewer, fiscal planning, organizational health and personnel, emergency water, water bank, and administrative management, where you want to go. It will also produce a vision action table, and basically in this table we have timelines within a 5-year period to achieve certain plateaus and goals, and should be a good document and directional tool. Secondly, and there will be a further briefing, because I don't believe we briefed the board currently, but I just want to touch on it briefly. But we'll take it to the fiscal committee and then have them do a presentation before the board. It's a move that we're taking inside, but I want to brief the board. It's not required of an action by the board, but currently, as you well know, we have most of our revenues in LAKE, the local agency investment fund. And in LAKE, we receive about 23 basis points in interest on the money that's in CalTrust has been around for a long time, and they're a 38 billion plus organization. They're working under the Wells investment and the Wells Fargo Bank, and they're operated and guided under the California Association of Counties Finance Corporation. And but we're going to move revenues into CalTrust to take advantage of CalTrust's higher return and yield. It meets all of our current investment policy guidelines, and reduces about 13 basis points higher than what we currently get. It follows SLI, which is the acronym for it's being safe. It's liquid. We can get our money at any time on a moment's notice, and the yield is higher. So over a year's time, we could generate revenue otherwise that we wouldn't be generating in our revenues. We're not going to take all of it out of LAIF, but a good portion of it, and we're going to split it from the SAFE fund, the short-term fund, and the medium-term fund. Both of them have a good return as far as liquidity. We can get our money, it's not going to be tied up and be just as good as when we had it late, with the exception of medium term. We can get that money anytime we want, but we're going to put longer term funds in, for instance, revenues like our coverage for various loans that we may have that we put aside because we're mandated under the terms of the contract to put in there. So they're long-term revenues that have to sit there. We can't access those funds unless there's a dire emergency. So we're looking at what funds we need to have and what funds are long-term funds. We'll be doing that. And certainly our Quimby funds and things such as that will be going into those, because those are very restricted funds and they have to be used very specifically for purchases of land for the furtherance of the parks. Our investment's not too far out, but enough to generate thousands of dollars additional that we normally wouldn't get. We'll have a more thorough explanation by CalTrust in a finance meeting, and I would suspect that at the same meeting that we have them do a presentation before the board, we'll have the finance meeting just prior to the board, and then move out of there from the committee into this meeting where they'll do a full presentation to the board. Lizette and myself, and in regard to assisting them in their property sales and their customers, because occasionally we get customers that show up the window wanting to start water service before they bought a new house and find that there's a lien on the house for unpaid debt. And because they're the new owner, they just bought the debt before they could start water. So in an attempt to make those types of transitions easier, when we file those liens, for some reason escrow doesn't search those all the time. So we prepared a walking piece for them with phone numbers on it to call us to do a pre-check, and then they could advise escrow as to whether or not that lien is filed, and all of our liens filed. We take a couple different avenues to attempt to collect before we place the lien, and so when it's done, they're assured that from our perspective here, that their clients aren't going to be turned away or have to pay a different fee and start claiming it wasn't disclosed to them. We're trying to aid them in that manner. We can go down, it's wore out. It's about a $60,000 fix. I had them research the age of it and to contact the company, find out what the life expectancy of that screen is, and they said about 10 to 12 years. And so it's exceeded its life, and because it's exceeded its life, we can take approximately 100% of the cost out of our depreciation fund. We've set aside $1.6 million for events just like this. So we have the money until John to move forward to repair it if we have to. We'll have it back up and running shortly. I'm not sure what the status is today. They had various water leaks. It appears that there's a lot of water leaks popping up for some reason. They're finding kinks and that are generally caused by backfilling ditches improperly. And we had a discussion about that to ensure that the proper shading's done prior to backfilling any of the ditches. So Brock has been right on top of that. I have instructed Brock to instruct Legacy Homes because we were going to be addressing the issue this evening on our stage 2 that they need to stop with the grass and the like. So he hasn't reported back to me as to what they think, but he's been right on top of it on that also. So we're moving in that direction. They have various leaks. They had hung like 201 shut-off notices and 30 shut-off. You had made a comment Thursday evening last. This didn't get to us till the late afternoon Thursday, so you weren't aware of it at the time. But it was a report sent to. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. Sorry, I'm on B.
Okay, we're on. Hey.
Hey.
Okay. Stay with us, Steve. Stay with us here.
All right. The ordinance is to, for a change, reduce the fee. And the fee is the deposits that we are requiring folks to put on when they start a new an account. So what we'd like to do is move that from a $200 fee or a $250 fee to a $200 fee. Moving the sewer fees to the tax bill allows us to back off on that fee, and if we see that it can be sustained, we may move it back to one more step. So we're trying to walk before we run on reducing it, but we'd like to get the board's blessing to reduce the deposit to a $200 deposit instead of $250.
They came and asked me, well, we okay. So we got your question. So I know where we're trying to go. I have a question. Do we have to get the motion for this before we start asking the question?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Do I have a motion on item A?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion is made by Director Glennan, second by Director Spoor. Discussion.
Yes, Steve. Okay, I can see this here. I remember back when we started this, there was a lot of uproar because people said it was too much. They went to this, so this could be kind of a remedy. The question I have, we're starting to get a lot of, and this ties in back with the shut off. If they get shut off, they wait, is this $200? If he agreed it was $200, they get the utility turned off, and they have to put up another deposit.
No, if they have a deposit on file and they bring their bill current, they don't have to put another one on. Only if they, for some reason, they can't pay it, they need the water on, we will, from time to time, depending on their history, case by case, put a plan together for them to pay back or to pay all of that deposit by a certain date to get it current. In the meantime, they've got the bill current. If they don't meet the deposit deadline, they're subject to turn off again. They sign a contract to that effect. So we try to work with them to keep them on at all costs. Sometimes we look at the history and they're habitually late or having us wanting to, they want us to waive fees and things like that, and we do what we can, but there comes a point when we can no longer float them over a month out.
Some people, let's make sure we're not taking advantage of it, because some people with bounce checks and has had challenges here. They come and say, well, we're not doing part one, part number two. Some people done here, and I stood at their, in the front office here, and you find out that they're constantly late and whatnot, and they challenge some people in late. So I think this is good by the people that need the help, but let's make sure we're not getting. I don't know who's the final approval on this here. That's who makes the final determination. But this is a good thing to help. Let's just make sure they don't take advantage of the young folks in the community are current all the time in Irvington.
I think since we raised it to 250, we've seen a marked improvement. And it might be the stabilization of the economy that we're not seeing that fluctuation that's occurring so much. And I think some of the property owners also are charging on their end a deposit. Some of them are. So hopefully we have the property owners protected with the $200 deposit now, as well as it would be suggested that most or all property owners charge a deposit to their renters, and the people that are possibly or potentially putting them in the position where they're going to have to pay the bill. In the information, it was specified that agencies should use due diligence to get this addressed as soon as possible, because the regulations that were produced would probably be in effect August 1
Of this year.
This year. So what it was the State Water Resources Control Board adopted a resolution, and citing the governor's emergency drought order, the executive order, and his follow-up in the proclamation to, in effect, produce the 2020 plan, which was a 20% reduction by the year 2020. And actually, I'm sorry, that happened before that, but to declare the emergency is what the governor did this year because of the drought. Rosamond has been working hard since 2009, I believe it was, to start reducing our water usage by passing an ordinance that, in regard to Director Spoor's comments, we have an ordinance that points out steps to take in regard to conserving water. And that was adopted, and so we're moving based on information that we received from the state to implement mandatory directives that will achieve a 10% reduction. Currently today, Rosamond needed to achieve 140 gallons per capita a day use to achieve the 20%. We are at 141. So we're doing a pretty good job. We're right at the 20%. The big question was in the staff meeting yesterday was, are we going to be required to further reduce our intake and conservation efforts? And in reading the resolution, they recognize that some places in the state have done a real good job, but they also recognize that they need to do more and should. So it wasn't left to a misinterpretation that we were subject to, even though we were compliant, almost in compliance now, or right at compliance with the 2020 rule. The mandates mandate various issues like not being able to water more than 25 minutes a day, alternating times and days of the week. Those are some of the things that we're recommending to implement, and this is not something that we were left discretion over. We're not trying to take a heavy hand on the people because it's not the best interest in the operating revenue of the district because the loss of revenue is directly proportional to the reduction. Now, it doesn't make sense for us to go out and hammer people unjustly. We didn't need to implement mandatories because everybody was doing a real good job in achieving that to date. However, we're being mandated and could face fines up to $10,000 a day for non-compliance. The base year will be 2013, and will be compared monthly in reports sent to the State Water Resources Control Board. So they're going to monitor each and every one of us as to how we're doing in the cutbacks. So it's not discretionary, it's mandatory. And although we have set aside water for a rainy day, if you will, and that's kind of a misnomer, but we have the water in the bank. Should there be no water available, we would be able to serve our customers. That's the positive part of that water currently. But having the water set aside does not alleviate the fact that we have to follow the mandate just like everybody else. Unfortunately, we're being required to do so.
Yeah, because I didn't see in here that it says, unless you have lots of water.
Right.
So they're looking at it. But before you move on, I'd like to have item 9, the last full page, talk about, because it's talking about dual meters. And I'd like to have it on this.
About what?
The dual meters, all new single-family residents and duplex homes shall be equipped with dual water meters and shall initially reduce water through landscape meters. What exactly is that?
Actually, this is a dual metering for gray water. We have to establish a gray water usage ordinance and get approved to use gray water to the county of Kern and to the Department of Public Health and everything else. That has not been established at this time. I don't believe that we would be requiring people to install dual meters. That is for new developments, but it's smart to do.
Are they suggesting that we would remove the shower water or something like that out from our sewer lines and have the folks put something on that?
No, because of new residences, there would be dual plumbing. Gray water would go one direction and sewer water would go another. Gray water being shower bath, sink, washing machine, that's your gray water.
So county is going in that direction?
Not necessarily. This was in our ordinance. It's not something that we're recommending to implement at this time because it's the mandate in the resolution is for 270 days. We probably wouldn't get a hearing to affect that in that amount of time.
So when they're talking about landscape meters, they're only talking about gray water usage or
Gray water?
splitting the meter, one for landscape and one for the house.
Gray water and recycled water. Imagine in here, it wasn't elaborated on in the ordinance as to the distinction between gray and recycled water for those purposes. I would imagine they're probably looking, because the encouragement was to utilize gray water in the resolution, in the correspondence. And at that point, I believe it would be necessary to start requiring all new construction. This is for new construction, all new development. So it's prospective and not retroactive. And let's start requiring them to put in dual piping, permanent pipe, as well as potable water. So it can be used in that.
Absolutely, I mean, they've done a good job, and, you know, we always compliment them on the job they've done, and always say, do better than that. And this is coming from, this is the one, so basically, the state resolution is telling us, because this one line reads, also calls for all Californians to reduce water by 20%. That, number 2 on the state resolution, last sentence, it says, the January proclamation also calls on all Californians to reduce water usage. So, we're asking for the 10%. I mean, on top of whatever number we have now, we have to drop by 10% throughout the community.
Their number that I read was 10%, and looking at the emergency, the text of the emergency regulations, it's contradictory to some of the other freedoms. And but in the stage 2, currently we're in a stage 1. That's where you start being mindful of reductions, and the community has done a great job at that. The stage 2 tries to achieve a 10 to 15% reduction. I think that's reasonable for us, based on what we have done thus far. So we'll move towards that, send the state our ordinance, and see if they approve it. If they, for some reason, say, well, this is not enough, and we can't argue, but we're sitting at a 20% reduction already, then we may have to come back to the board and upgrade it to stage 3.
That's what I'm thinking here. If we're already at 20, we can send them and show them we're there. Just like we've done well, they're going to penalize our community for doing this, so maybe we can ask them, where are we doing our part? Before this came aboard, before this proclamation came off from the weather, we split the chance.
You know, Steve, they had a deal where they said in Northern California, the water agencies up there are already reduced their water by 17%, 19%, 15%. And down in the LA basin, I believe it was increased since the first of the year by 8%. Now, this community has been doing their job of conserving water, and I would say that, you know, we can send the ordinance with stage 2, and I think by, you know, asking people to, you know, reduce the watering of their lawns and to, you know, alternating days of water and things like that, that we will be able to get any more reductions that the state may want. But because we're already at the 20%, I would like, if we're going to send this ordinance, I'd like to see item C1 removed, because I don't think we need to have that provision in here. I think with the other restrictions that we're looking at, that would, I mean, if we were sitting as a community of only at 10% of the 2020 plan, then I could see having that provision in there. But because we're already at 20%, and then plus with the other things spelled out on how to, you know, don't be wasting water, don't be washing down driveways, things like this, that I think that alone would achieve a savings.
Until when a large water user is using it, we're able to do those things with the master meters. Right, and what we did in this budget is we budgeted to put enough money in to finish out all those. So we'll have the ability, as soon as we get them all installed, to provide all of that information.
Maybe we get away from the word water police and water efficiency help, because when you use certain words, it sounds like you're going to get So maybe let's start thinking about water efficiency to help folks, because some people are gonna try a little bit more, because it's the cost, but then on the flip side of it, then that's lost revenue, so we have no control over. So in one instance, the state saying do this, they're gonna impact a lot of communities from the revenue standpoint, by cutting back on the water use, which is not understandable. But maybe we can help those folks there, and maybe look at the efficiency side of it. You know, we can push this along the way.
If you think about it, if everybody that has timers on their sprinklers, if they reduce them 20%, that's a 20% reduction for that household on that cycle. That uses almost 70% of a household's water supply. So that 20% reduction of the overall then becomes about 15% every day.
And that's what I'm saying, like, my yard, I water once a day in the morning.
Their water, and then a cease and desist order that would come from us, and then following a $100 a day fine, which we would probably not be able to implement. But the ones with the smart meters, that have smart meters now, would be easy to see when they're watering and how much they're watering at that particular time of the day.
We can see the big water users, and what may happen when you do see that is education, by knocking on their door and saying, look, here's the ordinance, here's the stuff, you know, you gotta cut back. You're doing this, you got water, you're watering the sidewalk, it's running down the curb, the gutter, and you can't have that. And further violations, we're gonna get a little bit more stringent. So we need to educate them as we go, because I think it's the right thing to do. Once we get compliance and once people start getting used to doing something one way, we'll have the conservation. We'll achieve it, but it'll take us a while. So once again, if I didn't mention it before, it's for a 270-day period at this point, unless they determine otherwise. If we start getting big snow, if we start getting a lot of water, they may cut it back, and we can lift our restriction and go back to a 1. If not, if the drought continues, all we can probably see is more restrictions coming down to the state.
According to this reading here on Section C, Part 2, A and B, the times are wrong for the summer months. It's saying you're allowed to water from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. That makes no sense. That's during the day in the wind. Am I right or am I wrong?
You can click to see.
You
2A.
may-
A and B. Section C,
That's the
Part 2, A
version.
and
If you
B.
look in the ordinance.
Okay, you said you're talking about Sunday, Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, between hours
Yeah.
6 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And during the winter months of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And during the summer months. I think it's split, yeah. On page 9, Steve, page 9, look at item number 8.
Is that a misprint on this one?
I think so. Don't want to water during the day.
Right. But this is saying yeah, to water during the day.
Yeah,
So I don't know whether this was a typo or what.
That should be,
Should be 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. It's reversed.
Right, it says 8 p.m. to 8 a.m.
It's a typo.
But it's in your regular version, is it wrong or right?
It's the same way.
Same like this? Easy to change.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Hey, and also, just two comments. Find it kind of curious that here we have the Chrome 6 net coming down our heads in the middle of a drought. And then you have Lahontan dragging their tails on the tertiary water, either for injection into the ground to replenish our aquifer, or using it out on the outside. It's just too curious thing.